lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite books that came out this week. Just a little over 2 weeks into 2024, and so far it's been a blast. And Marvel has been killing it already with a lot of great books. I've already talked about them on the channel. And today I'm going to be talking about Avengers Twilight by Chip Zdarsky Daniel Acuna. Before we get into it, if you're subscribed to the channel, just want to say thank you. We appreciate all the support, the comments, the likes. They mean a ton to us over here. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can check out, so you'll be notified every time we drop new vids. They drop daily, and we got a bunch of backlog too. I think I don't know the count, but it's well over 800 vids at this point. So they keep coming. I got a bunch that are set to drop too. So hit that subscribe button, and now let's jump into this book. So I love these type of stories, like kind of set in, the not super distant future, like just far enough to where our heroes are older and they've been through some shit, kind of like Dark Knight Returns, the high watermark of a story like that. But Kingdom Come comes to mind as well. And this kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe has a little bit of that vibe or energy. But as you can see, we have this Cap, and you can see the scar on his face. He's got a different costume. Beautiful Alex Ross cover. I always love when they, hit him up to design some new costumes. But, we open up and, Steve Rogers talking about how young or old, every day starts the same way. Open your eyes, and if you don't want to. And most days before I hear her voice, I really don't. And it's interesting because, you see him with glasses. You see him with some medication. So, what has happened to him? He's, as his, girlfriend, I would say, is saying, I'm just grateful my living legend is still living. And, he's got mild arrhythmia. So, what has happened? We're going to learn as we get into it that, the super soldier serum has left his body. Which is interesting because every time we've seen that in the past, he's always kind of become scrawny again. But he seems kind of built similar to, this Steve Rogers Captain America we know. That's the only thing where I'm like, okay, so he got it taken from him, but what happened from then? And you can see they denote. I love how Acuna does this. How he's denoting the pain in his body by little lightning bolts coming off. So he's getting slight twinge of pain. He does that here with just the subtle movement of him shaking his hand as he's trying to put his glasses on. It's those little things that I really dig about Daniel's work. And we can see some other scarring on here. We see that he ran for senator, and he's just kind of living in the past, seeing this futuristic city. And as he's walking down, some girl says, "Are you Captain America, the original?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Would you mind if I?" And he says, "A selfie?" And she says, "Of course not. I would never." And I thought that was kind of weird. And why would this take place? He's like, "Sorry, my mind isn't what it used to be." So why does he realize that she wouldn't want a selfie? That's, this is what kind of drew me in. Why has Cap gotten to this place? Why wouldn't somebody want a picture? What could have happened in the past that would make her be like, no, I wouldn't do that? Then we see Luke Cage. I don't know what this thing is on his body, but it's obviously keeping him upright. And they're going to go meet somebody in the park. Who is it? None other than an elderly Matthew Murdock. I love the little addition of the bullseye on his coffee cup. I thought that was a nice touch. And then, we do see logos of superheroes, right? So it's interesting the kind of future that we're living in. And, he talks about, how he tried to run for office, and the voters showed him that he's just an old soldier wishing for days gone by. And, a lot of people have said that Cap can be old-timey sometimes, right? He lives in the past. His ideals are those of somebody that grew up in the 30s, 40s, and, this is where we see that he doesn't have the super soldier serum in his body. He volunteers at a food bank. What's Luke doing? And he's like, just the next mayor, you're a symbol. Our rights are being squashed, and your voice means something against that. This almost feels like a militant state. There's obviously these drones that are flying around, right? Then we come back. Cap's having a dinner with his girlfriend. She's talking about how they're trying to get you back into it, to fight the good fight. Then we see this interesting news report called Read Between the Lines, And it's basically they're making this documentary about the Red Skull and how he was Hitler's right hand man. But recent evidence shows that he worked against Hitler. You know, and the men who came after further twisting the story of the Red Skull. Obviously, he gets pissed and he can't deal with it, right? He says nobody cares about the truth anymore. Nobody cares, and then he's reminiscing, about his Avengers teammates, and we get this jump over to the current Avengers, and you got this guy just with Cap with the cutoff mask, and then we get I'm assuming this is the real Thor. I don't know, and there's an Iron Man, but I think he might be remote controlled. I'm not sure because we see this. He's like this butler that's coming up to this guy is like, if you just agreed to be Iron Man. So obviously, like, it's kind of inkling towards he's a Stark. We see all these like tattoos that look very mechanical in style, which is kind of interesting. He calls him Jarvis, and he's like, I'm not your butler, James. That was my brother. This guy's obviously cocky. He seems like he would be a Stark, and we're gonna find out his lineage in a little bit. But he's coming up to me. He's like, the FBI let us know we may have to help talk down an old friend. So what's Steve doing, right? He's setting up this interview on a news show, and who crashes the party other than this, who we can only assume is a Stark, that stupid smug smile, and he calls him Uncle Steve. And then Steve calls him Jimmy, and he's like, wow, I haven't been called that in a long time. You really do live in the past, don't you? Just a little subtle dig at Cap, which super obnoxious, right? And so now they're talking about this whole docu-series on the man who tried to take down Hitler from the inside, Red Skull. It's like, then we get, original Captain America, Steve Rogers, and the CEO of Stark Technology, the son of the original Iron Man, and Wasp. That was interesting. So, like, obviously I feel like this is an alternate future. I don't think that this is, in the present. But it's interesting that he's against Steve, right? He's like, Mr. Rogers here has suddenly become quite vocal that this docuseries shouldn't air, slinking out of retirement only when it's his legacy in danger of being tarnished. As we all know, Red Skull's a monster, right? And, this is basically a slap in the face to the women and men that died trying to stop him. And again, now James Stark over here, if you keep using the word, do you think everyone eventually will believe it? Heroes? At what point do these people stop being considered heroes, Steve? And then they talk about this H-Day, Hero Day, a national tragedy. And we come back to the past through, the visuals that they're showing on the screen. And we see, James calling him out. He's like, hundreds dead, Boston leveled. The world woke up and realized there's no line between vigilante heroes and media dubbed quote-unquote villains. Unparalleled destruction by all. But the death count fell mostly to Dr. Bruce Banner. The Hulk, wasn't he a founding member? And he's like, well, Ultron control. He's like, of course, it's always quote unquote Ultron, the evil AI created by yet another Avenger. How are we supposed to believe you about the Red Skull? And Steve gets pissed, walks out. He's getting worked up, man. He's thinking back on what happened in the past, and his heart stuff is going down because he does have, he takes his heart medication, and he's thinking back on this moment that happened with, he's on the ship with She-Hulk, Black Widow, Iron Man's in the air. We get a pretty heart-wrenching moment here. As Cap's walking in the rubble, we see Spider-Man. Even then he's with his quips, you should have seen the other guys. It's a great moment. He just worries about his aunt, promised me he'll protect her. And he starts to say, my name's Pete. And then he dies, and he's like, you're Spider-Man, son. Just really, the moments that happen in here, the level of the emotional response I got while reading this, I haven't felt this way about some of these alternate timeline stuff in a long time. And this book blew me away just a few pages in. By the time I finished it, I'm like, this is it, dude. I have to have this on my pull list. I highly recommend it. I won't get too more into it, but eventually we're going to meet, these Iron Man type soldiers, and Cap, of course, sticking up for the little guy. He takes these guys out. And again, denoting the pain by these little lightning bolts. And then Cap gets knocked down, but he gets saved by these basically a resistance that's against, the quote unquote man who's kind of created a militant state. Then we come back to James. He's communicating with who? His dad, who's trapped in this tank. I mean, it's insane. You get to see these little Easter eggs. You see like the Venom symbiote there, and Cap is gonna be now a part of this thing that Luke Cage is running to take them down. They're gonna figure out a way to get him his powers back. Not to bury the lead. Spoilers. They call themselves the Defenders. I like that. But he's gonna get his powers back. And now he's going to don the Cap suit once more. Great first issue. We get this like backup story, which not really sure how this ties in. I have to think that it's going to somehow tie into the main story by Ralph Macchio, Walt Simonson. Really great first issue for this miniseries. This is how you do it. Chip Zdarsky Daniel Acuna killed it. Get some little design work for, the characters in the book, but I can't say enough good things about this. Go pick this up from your local comic shop. You will not be disappointed. This is the most. There's a couple issues that came out a few issues that came out this week, but this one just blew me away, and I think it's because I didn't really know what to expect. I read very little about the solicitation, but go pick it up. While you're at it, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video drops. And on that note, I'm out.